Well, welcome back for another edition of Soul Business Companion. This week, I'm again delighted to be joined by another guest. I do like having guests in to talk about different aspects of women's lives so we can get fully supported in this 360 Technicolor marathon that is life. So today I would like to welcome Ewelina, who is a clinical hypnotherapist and transformational coach. So welcome to the podcast. Do you want to tell people a little bit more about what you do so they can understand what we're going to be talking about?
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for having me and introducing. So yes, my name is called my name is Ewelina. I don't know where that came from. Anyway, my name is Ewelina Szczeblewska, and yes, I'm a clinical hypnotherapist and a transformational coach, and I help women to shift the self-sabotaging patterns of behavior and thinking, because that is a habit as well, fear, so that they can step into their magnetic confidence so that they can show up with courage and self-trust in all aspects of their lives. So that's in short what I do, because obviously there's a lot more to it, but it's in short and sweet.
Short and sweet. Firstly, apologise. I pronounced your name wrong. That's my dyslexia and ADHD. Um, always legs me up when I'm introducing people. So yeah, I'm always been fascinated by this confidence and how we can become our best selves. Because I suppose, like so many people, I grew up very unconfident, and there it's almost like a rite of passage that you have to develop your own confidence, and so much of that comes with so much difficulty. So I think having people realizing that confidence is a skill and they can get support in developing confidence, I think has been a groundbreaker for women. Do you see more women coming forward recognizing that they can get support with confidence and breaking down their limiting beliefs?
Hmm. Yes, I think women are generally are the one that come forward more often and ask for help than men. There are men asking for help. I think it takes them a bit longer to do it. Not all women identify as well. They do struggle with confidence because it shows up as self-doubt, procrastination, either or thinking, fear of money. So they don't always identify with I need some help with confidence because the presenting issue is looking slightly different. And also, I think there are two sides to confidence because on one side, confidence is competence. So the more you practice something, the more confident you're getting at this. Okay, so that's one side of things. However, there is more of a psychological side of things too, as well, for us women being confident, where that links to that self-doubt and not trusting ourselves and people pleasing and all those other things that we get into it, not even knowing that that behavior is not necessarily serving us.
I think you're absolutely right. Obviously, we had a conversation before this podcast, and we were talking about. I know for me, I think the socialization of women to accept being less than they can be, because that's what often we perceive the roles of women to be or femininity to be. So we don't always recognize, I think, that it's a problem. We then internalize the problem as there's something wrong with me because I
Mm,
can't fit into this mold. And actually, it's just that the mold is the wrong size, and we should be free to be ourselves. And these things are really, and again, we were talking about this, how deeply ingrained in our
yeah.
unconscious thinking they are. So it's really hard to recognize when we have these problems. What would you say would be clues for women to look out for that says, they've got real limiting beliefs and a confidence issue? How does it show up? Like I said, what sort of tangible, I know we've just talked about this, but sort of
Mm.
tangible examples they could, let's say they're going to, I don't know, they want to ask for a pay rise, like you say, or they're starting their own business, they want to price a product. How does it show up in their thinking where they can start to recognize that the problem may be in me, actually?
Yeah. I think it's simple, and I think we complicated things as women. So if you have this internal dialogue questioning if you could put your prices up because you think that you need five more courses and probably 10 more years of experience before you can do it. or you would ask for pay rise as well. Again, if you question and you're not sure about it and you're going to your anxiety and what if and thinking that maybe you should ask for more workload first before you get this pay rise, questioning your value, if you people pleasing more and you taking other people's needs above yours. Those are just simple examples that are feeding into low confidence because it all starts from when we are being children. And I'm sure some people will disagree with me, but we are being brought up definitely men and women.
Mm.
And generally, us as women, we don't even see this as low confidence because we think, worrying about other people more than we worry about ourselves is the way to be. If we put everyone else's needs above, this is what a good mother does. If we put husband needs over ours time and time again, this is being a good wife.
Mm.
And yes, there are places for this. Don't get me wrong. You have to switch sides. Sometimes, the husband career more important. Sometimes the wife's. However, there has to be some conversation and equality. If you constantly do it to yourself time and time again, then feeling frustrated about it, trying to squeeze those feelings at the back of your head, thinking, oh my, I must be a bad mother or bad wife or bad person, questioning all of this. All this dialogue in your head, that's all subtle clues that you may struggle with self-doubt, low self-worth, procrastination, and especially if you procrastinate and self-sabotage yourself time and time again, you're in a dialogue. Again, that's a clue because every word that we say to ourselves, it's clue to how we see ourselves, our identity, self-worth, and self-esteem. So as you said earlier, it's complex, it's deep layers. I've been working on things and sometimes, 6 months later, something bumps again, and I'm like, oh my God, I thought I've dealt with this, and that bump again. However, it's not the same. It's a different layer, it's a different flavor, it shows up differently, there's a different dynamic to it
Yeah.
because, we do not get here overnight.
No, we don't. There is no, oh, this is the problem. Here's the solution, job done. It's not
Mm,
that simple, is it? And I think there is this huge problem with women's socialization, and that we are socialized almost into being, and I use this word in inverted commas, sort of inadequate human beings. It's also like
mm,
the default state of what's perceived as femininity. Again, that's not another word I'm very fond of. But it's almost like, the man in patriarchal society, that's the base model, isn't it? And
yeah,
women and children, women particularly, like support humans that satellite
yeah,
around men, fulfilling their every women need. And this is the nature of patriarchal society, that so much emotional labor and physical labor in the home,
yeah,
is disproportionately falls on women. So, and this is something that we have modeled for generations, because in
yeah,
previous times, so we've discussed this, isn't it? Women didn't have an option. You got
no,
married, you couldn't have your own bank account, you couldn't start a
yeah,
business, completely tied. So I think it's in essence, it's only really in this generation that en masse, I think women are starting to wake
mhm,
up and go, actually, we can
yeah,
do things for ourselves. But with that, then comes all this generational and karmic and ancestral energetic stuff that
yes,
we carry around with us in our energy field. It's not just ours, if you see what I mean. I
mm,
mean, from my point of view, working with energy as well, because I work with people's auras and all sorts of energy fields and lots of ancestral energy
yeah,
as well. We do carry it in, but it's almost like it holds up flags. We don't have to necessarily deal with all that, but we have to recognize that the buck stops with us. And
yeah,
if we do something in our
yeah,
life, then we've broken that bond, and then we
yeah,
can move forward without it. Because you're in this life, aren't you? If lives were a bicycle, if you believe in reincarnation, and you fell off your bicycle in a past life, you get on the bicycle and fall off, and then you get on and fall off again. It's this bicycle that you've fallen off now. You don't have to go back to the first bicycle and
yeah,
pick that one up. So past lives, have an effect, but I think we can get caught up in that. And I think, like I said,
yeah.
the real important part is dealing with the here and now, isn't it? I live
Yes, I
now.
would add this that yes, we have to deal with this what's going on right now. However, we also have to deal with trauma
Mm.
because it's something like generational trauma my trauma stemmed from the fact that my mum went through health trauma and her grandma, and so they passed on from generation to generations. I said the buck stops with me. So yes, I got passed on certain things. However, I don't agree with passing them any further. I don't agree with continuing to hold on to this.
Mm.
And I do a lot of work on myself. I put a lot of energy into this. It took me a while to get here. I wasn't, working on myself from day one. I had to, so to speak, hit the rock bottom, as they say, before I was, like, okay, something needs to change here. At least with where we are in the world right now, we have the tools to do it, because like my grandma certainly didn't have the tools. She was born before the Second World War, grew up after the war, grew up after the war. So, she had no tools whatsoever. Her husband divorced her because she had cancer. Like, talking about patriarchy, like, good to me anymore, see you later. You know, so is my mum. She got her generational trauma passed on to me, but I have to say the buck stops with us.
Mm.
So it's yes, so there's one thing with social conditioning that we receive through school, through social media, through other people, because we social creatures, we want to fit in. So we hear, what other people say, we want to be like everyone else. However, there's also trauma that comes from your family that we need to deal with. So, when I start looking into my confidence, one, I wasn't confident. Two, I'm an introvert. Three, I was really shy. Two, I had, problems with feeling not enough, not worthy, not, my self-esteem was crap, and all the other things that, stemmed from my childhood. So everyone is different, and everyone will have a different set of things that they need to work around. And that's what I love about my work, because it's unique to every customer, and I can tailor my work to every person. So yes, we might work around confidence or self-worth or feeling not good enough. However, everyone's journey is going to look very different.
Yeah, I think that's so true. What you were saying about there being multiple sources of influence, like you say, there's the societal cultural influence, there's sort of the world dynamic of patriarchy, and then there's very much our family and friends, isn't it? And much like you, when we spoke obviously before, domestic abuse had run right in my families for generations, and we're just subservient. And then I reached that point in adulthood when I found myself in exactly the same situation. And that was that light bulb moment when I thought, oh my goodness, I'm mirroring the marriage that I saw as a child between my grandparents, which was the model. And I thought, oh my God, and that's quite a horrible moment, I think, to find yourself in, because you thought you were making independent choices,
Yeah.
and you thought you were living your life. And then you realize that you just made these decisions based on data that you absorbed as a really young child. And then often you found out you're in quite a deep mess at that point in time, and it's just it seems a long way to get yourself out of that hole, doesn't it? But it can do, but it is possible. And I think it's realizing that those short, or rather those minute shifts in mindset and energy, if you looked at angles, it's a little shift, but it has a
Yeah.
massive
Yeah.
impact on time. And I think that's a really important point to make, that it doesn't, you can feel in a bit of a hole, and you can think like, oh geez, what have I done, how have I got here? Well, aren't I the clever one? But once you've got a handle on that, I mean, that's a really empowering position, isn't it? Because you
Yeah.
really made the difficulties, you are in fact the solution, so the power is in your hands to do something. So do you find that women are, generally, is it an empowering process, I suppose? I mean, I found it so, and I'm sure you did, but I can understand people might be a bit, oh, is it easier to just carry on than dredge it all up?
Right. So I would put it that way. Is it easier to go through 3 to 6 months process with myself or yourself, where yes, it may be a bit of a challenging upheaval, emotional release, versus the rest of your life going probably downhill, because that's how usually that works. So it's a short-term pain versus long-term gain. And for me, that's a no-brainer,
Yeah.
because through the short term of working together, you're going to release so much, get clear about what is that you want, who you are as a person, evaluate your values, your beliefs, your stories, all those things that you've been avoiding to this point. Because that's what we do as humans. It's uncomfortable, it's painful, I don't want to look at it. But the problem is, it's keep knocking at our door through relationship problems, financial problems, problems at work. Your business is not growing. So you may think that you are avoiding it. You don't. It's still showing up in your life. So someone that interviewed me recently said something interesting, and I have actually really agree. So rather than creating your life by default, based upon your beliefs and values, stories that you've picked up along the way from the day you were born, do you choose this, or are you going to create your life as a creator of your life based upon the way you choose to live and the values that you choose to have in your life? And I think for me, that's a no-brainer.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I obviously 100% agree with you, but I just thinking, some people I know it's that fear of there's a big
Yes.
fear of dealing with it, isn't it? Because actually, what does dealing with it entail? And is it best the devil I know than the devil I don't? I would say no, it's much better the devil
No.
you don't. It's much
Yeah,
better.
but that goes back to this, like that fear of unknown, which that's how the brain keeps us stuck because we fear the unknown so much that, like I said, better the devil that we know, but absolutely not.
Yeah, because there's hidden gems. And I mean, once you start to realize your confidence and your own power, and you're able to assert better boundaries and make
Mm,
about who you don't and who you don't want in your life, I mean, your life transforms dramatically.
absolutely.
And it's just such an empowering place to be. As I say, that you realize you are the creator, and then you're more. I don't know about you, but I'm more willing to go out and just try things and go, well,
Yeah.
it either work, and if it doesn't, it is what it is. But I'm not worried about the failure anymore, and I'm not worried about showing up perfect, as you can tell today. But it's just a question of just breaking down those fear blocks, isn't it? Because I think I think more and more people are waking up to the fact that they create their own reality through their thoughts and their
Hmm.
emotional intelligence. I think that's a big shift that we're seeing, particularly with the rise of the coaching industry online, that more and more people are waking up to this. With talks about, quantum manifestation and quantum
Yeah.
success. But of course, it's absolutely right. And these
Yeah.
tools are incredibly powerful, aren't they? They are almost like the secret sauce, aren't they, to life,
Hmm.
really?
Yeah, we are so powerful, and now I'm like on the other side, and I'm sure there's so much more that I can discover. And that's what's so beautiful because you continue to grow. Um, 5 years down the line, what's going to be 5 years down the line? Do you want to be in the same spot you are right now, unhappy, stuck, and frustrated, or probably even worse off? Or do you want to have the life that you really want? 5 years, because the 5 years will pass, whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
So to me, that's a no-brainer. And now I'm looking 5 years back and I'm thinking, holy, that was a journey and a half, ups and downs. However, loved it every minute of it. I've grown so much. And now I'm looking back and I was thinking, how on earth was I living? Like, I'm just loving my life so much more now, loving myself so much more. I'm so much more confident. And it's just, you just can't go back. Once you've expanded, have grown, you just like, I am not going back. I am just looking forward. Like, what's next? It's
Yeah.
possible for me.
Yeah, I think every day is a joy. I mean, I know I've looked back and thought, do you know what? I went through whole decades like that without making the most of that. And then,
Yeah.
and then you get to a certain age, obviously, because life's finite, and the older you get, the more you're aware you are how finite it actually is. So it's like every day is precious, and I want to go out there, like you say, and be the creator of my own reality, not just muddle through making the best fit, and then wake up one morning on my deathbed and think, damn, didn't really make the most of that. I'd rather fail now spectacularly and make a complete arse of myself than not do it at all.
Absolutely. I so agree because when I look at periods of my time when I kind of passed through, didn't really do anything with my life, kind of, I don't know what I did. I kind of, woke up one day and I was like, where did the 10 years just pass? It's gone and I didn't even live. And then I'm looking at the time when I actually lived, did the decision, went traveling, went things, spent loads of money. It doesn't really matter, but I've left. I've gained so much experience. I've grown, I've expanded, and the way amazing time of my life. And those are the best parts of my life, when I made crazy decisions and I did things when I didn't really know what was going to happen at the other end.
Yeah,
Not
absolutely.
those times when I knew what my tomorrow is going to look like.
Yeah, when I've planned things and thought like you, I've planned things, thought, well, that's what I'm going to do. Oh, boring, and life just closes in on you. When you decide to live on the end, like live on the tightrope and go, do you know, it doesn't really matter which way I jump because anything's going to be an adventure, and you let go of that attachment to the outcome, and opportunities come your way, and you can't see where they're going to lead, like you say, but an opportunity comes. I had a period in life when I was younger, and now when if an opportunity comes, I just go, yeah, I'm doing it. Why?
Yeah.
I don't know why. I'm just going to do it because it's there in front of me. That's a good enough reason. When I blocked those things, that's when life went catastrophically wrong.
Yeah.
So it is a question of just leaping. And I think, I think more. It's good that more and more women, I think, are taking that courage to, work on themselves, build a business, go into personal development, and just fulfill their own dreams and realize
Yeah.
they have every reason to do
Yeah,
it.
and if I may add, it doesn't matter what age you are, because I've had clients in the 60s making phenomenal transformation in their lives because they want it.
Hmm.
That's all you need to want. Is I want a transformation. I'm fed up with my life. I want something else. And those clients made a phenomenal shift because they showed up for themselves, they did their work, and in short spares of time, they make such a leap and bounds that I was like, wow, like good on you. And it didn't matter they were in a 60 or 70. It literally makes no difference at what stage of your life you are. All it counts is your willingness to do the work.
I think that's a really valid point because I think people can get sort of hit, I don't know, a midlife point.
Mm.
And if they're not careful, it's very easy to go, well, I'll just stay here.
Yeah, I
And,
just did.
well, I haven't really got that long left to live or something morbidly depressing like that. Whereas it doesn't matter. Actually, it wouldn't matter if you only had 1 year left or 3 months.
Yeah,
They can still be the best 3 months of your life, and every day is precious, isn't it? And so you may as well make the most of them all and, live your life really, but and get rid of all those limiting beliefs that hold you back. But like I say, it's a never-ending process, isn't it? We're never perfect, and it's all those layers. But I think once you realize and can see their layers, when the next layer comes up, it's less of a challenge and more of a,
yeah,
oh, let's see where this goes. It's more of a sort of
yeah,
an exploration. It becomes more of an adventure than a, oh my god, there's a big
yeah.
scary bear at the door.
I
It's more of
think
a, let's get out there in
that's
the
a,
forest and explore.
yeah, that's a great point because I think when we start those shifts, they tend to be big and painful and there's a huge transformation because we're just starting the work. But as we go through the work and the layers come up again, the lessons comes up again, they are much more subtle, they're much more finesse. There is a completely different shifts. You are a very different person at this point. So you approach the whole process in a from different perspective. It gets easier now when lesson comes up or a trigger comes up. I'm like, okay, see where that's gonna take me, rather than be was like, oh my God,
It
this
is.
is this big thing. So that gets easier
It does because
because you are shifting.
it's a skill set, isn't it? If my transformation was to be just stranded on a desert island tomorrow, the first few months are going to be terrible, isn't it? Because I've got to build a shelter, learn how to light a fire, and learn how to spear harpoon fish by hand or whatever.
Yeah,
So I've got to learn those skills. But as those skills increase, the terror of where I am
yeah,
decreases. So you start with terror and no skills, and you end up with skills, and the sort of the fear goes down. So it's this balance, isn't it? You have to have
yeah,
balance. And I think the other thing to sort of remember is that if the problem is present in your life, the law of polarity says that the solution must be as well.
yeah.
So whenever the problem is there is a solution, and it just maybe, might be working on ourselves. It might be going to get help with someone like you, but there is always that opportunity there. It's
Yeah.
just retraining our mind to see it a lot of the time.
Sometimes it's not even a problem. The problem is only because you say it's a problem. And I found that quite interesting with customers as well, when it's like you're having a session and they're like, oh my God, that wasn't even a problem. I just made it a problem because I was addicted to struggle and life was too good. So I needed to create a problem.
Yeah.
I mean, it literally goes as bad as this. And, I'm a classic example, I was addicted to struggle. And if my life was too good, I needed to create the struggle because it's too good, it's too easy.
Yeah.
So you need someone else to ask the right questions, point you in the right direction, because I would not be able to figure out just on my own. It was so deeply ingrained in me in such a deep layer. I didn't see it. I've done a work on myself, I've done a lot of healing, and I still didn't see it.
Mhm.
So working with someone else, it's vital because yes, there's so much that you can do by yourself. Absolutely. However, not everything can be done by yourself. You need that skilled person to ask you the right questions, point you in the right direction, help you to heal things because your mind will trick you. That's a really good trickster, by the way.
I think that's a really valid point because I remember, I think there's Alan Watts, the philosopher. He made a really great point about self-development, that we go into all this self-development and we want to heal, but the person that we're doing the self-development with is the same person that needs healing. The person who's doing the healing is the same person that's receiving the healing. So how can we give ourselves something that we don't already have? And
Yeah.
I think that's why working with other people, I mean, I know I've worked with many people to trauma counseling and all sorts of and personal development, and it is like you say, hugely beneficial to have somebody else cite your problems and look at them from an outside perspective. And with
Mhm.
that said, if people want to contact you, how do they go about finding more about what you do?
So you can find me all sorts of various social media. I'm on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. You can check my website, which is Braving the Being. And you can actually check out, what I'm all about. I've got a masterclass coming up in 2 weeks, I think. So 22nd of November. It's titled Elevate Your Magnetic Confidence. So come along, it's 7 p.m. and I will send all the details to Faye if you want to join. And then you get a chance to ask me lots of questions in person.
And of course, we will put all these details. Well, the details are below in the show notes for those of you who are reading the notes. It's been a real pleasure to talk to you today. Thank you very much for coming on, and it's been a delight. And I hope listeners and watchers have found this conversation useful. So thank you very much for joining us.
Well, thank you very much. We need more conversations like this.
We do. Upfront and honest, I think, is the way to go. Thank you again. It's been a delight to talk to you.
Thank you very much.